Well, this is my video documenting my first yield of anything that I've grown. And so these are the 3 pumpkins that we got this year. I'll try to pan around so that you can kind of get an idea of the pumpkins. And these are the 3 that we got out of the ground this year. This is my hand for size, so as you can see, they're not huge pumpkins. And unfortunately, this one has kind of succumbed to some mold. But the nice thing about that is I'm gonna toss it in one of my worm bins, so no harm done there. It's been out of the ground and waiting for its bigger sibling to be harvested, and in that time it didn't quite make it, so no harm there. But yeah, this is the yield. This is the last one that I harvested. You can actually see the little curly tendril there, and here's another one. These 2, this smaller 2, I harvested around the same time. This one was a little bit bigger, but it's kind of dehydrated to some degree since, as the mold has probably worked on it, and that's normal. And I think one of the things that's interesting about this has actually been how little time I've had this one since it's molded. And this one on the bottom, on the underside, there's some give down here, and I imagine that soon this one might also be turning as well. So, and then this one has a little bit of a spot here that I imagine it's still pretty firm at that spot. It's not a lot of give there, but compared to the other pumpkins that were store-bought, that I believe these came from, like that, whose seeds led to these growing, I feel like these have a shorter shelf life, which I think is normal. I'm not sure what those pumpkins were, whether it was what they were sprayed with or covered with that allowed them to stay for so long. But yeah, this one I don't think has been out of the ground or has been harvested even up to a month. And of course it did come out with a spot over here, and I'll have to see if I have pictures of it. But so it was somewhat compromised to begin with, but I don't expect that I'll get quite the same life out of this one with the soft spot or softer spot on the bottom. It's not, yeah, right down there there's a little bit of give, a little bit of play. And I imagine that over time that'll start decomposing. This one feels firm all the way around. It's actually been pretty nice when I pulled it out of the ground. This underside was kind of softer and it's kind of firmed up. And then when I pulled it out of the ground, this part that was attached to the leaf was longer and a little bit more moist. It kind of reminds me of an umbilical cord. And I think that's one of the beautiful parts about this, is the way that this whole process reflects the one generation giving to another, and just seeing the plant basically like an open hand, just opening up and yielding this this beautiful fruit, while its own hand, the plant itself withers and dies and leaves this fruit behind, after all of the work to grow and to pour the fruit of its photosynthesis into the next generation. I think it's just a really beautiful picture, and it's just neat to be able to be a part of. I'm really glad that we had this accidental planting. I had wanted to compost some pumpkins from last year. I put them in a bucket, forgot about them over the winter, and then when spring came around, I just went to bury them. And lo and behold, a few weeks later, there was a green sprout shooting up, and it ended up becoming a nice large pumpkin plant. I had a little pumpkin patch there, so it's been a beautiful opportunity for me to just have another reason to open the door and look outside and see what's going on. So just so glad for that, and it gives another reason even still to be involved in things like vermicomposting or composting in general, taking things like this, organic matter like this, and returning it to a cycle that can be so beautiful and productive. So really neat to just meditate on that and to see what God has created. And also makes me grateful for the fact that this plant obviously gives of itself to produce a pumpkin that I can enjoy. And I think that's obviously there are so many biblical analogies there. Jesus says that when talking about the wheat, that unless the grain of wheat falls to the earth and dies, it doesn't bear fruit. So there's this idea of sacrifice that we see in Scripture, and then it's really neat to be able to see it actually in front of you with your own eyes. So I'm just glad to be able to behold that, and I just thank the Lord for showing us that this year. These are the pumpkins.